just a note about me, I'm the director of our master's program, so of taught postgraduate studies, as we call it. You see my email here on the first slide. And again, I invite you to just write me an email or write to any of the program leads. Write an email if you have any questions about your particular program, for instance, that you're interested in. And this is, I hope, helpful today. But again, if there's anything beyond today, just be in touch. We are very happy to reply to your queries. There are a few kind of like more formal admissions things, and our team over there, that's kind of a university-wide team. They're also lovely. Just if you have any doubts, any queries, just raise them, right? They're very happy to help when it comes to funding opportunities, for instance. That's always very important. And for other things, just be in touch with them. So again, a resounding welcome from Durham University. We're a top 10 UK university, also quite highly ranked in the world. Again, for people who like these kinds of numbers, I'm obviously a qualitative social scientist, so I'm not so much into numbers. I rather tell you about what we're doing. The first question I would raise here, or I usually raise in these meetings, is the very simple question: what is anthropology? And I asked this because we obviously have 2 conversion masters, which allow you to become an anthropologist if you don't have the anthropological background. And we have 2 other very interdisciplinary masters that are nicely at home in anthropology, but reach out beyond that easily, and again are for everybody from a very interdisciplinary background as well. But I think raising the question is important because that's what you're tapping into, and it's maybe not this anymore. So the kind of stereotype of white people with pit helmets going to warm places and study the other. The discipline has obviously changed in many ways, and I think what it's come to is that we are very proud, and I think the world's best qualitative social science. We are defined, like any discipline, by our method. That's very long-term and immersive fieldwork in anywhere around the world. I mean, we, since the 1970s at least, we've been doing a lot of study up, so we can, work with your prime minister or your chancellor or whoever heads your state as much as with the people who take your trash away on a weekly basis. We're defined by our theory. So what I love personally about the discipline is that we are always asking the big questions, but we're asking them always in relation to very concrete places and peoples and practices. But we are contributing to key debates here, for instance, about sustainability. And what the discipline has always been is, obviously, it's a comparative discipline. We are always thinking in global terms. So we're looking at particular places, but always in comparison with other particular places around the world. And the problems we then think through are, as much big as they are small and detailed and everyday and very mundane. Now, you can rephrase the question then, as we are in empirical science, what then, empirically speaking, is anthropology? Well, and this is our department. This is anthropology in Durham. It's the Dawson building. It's more than 100 years old now. It was built as a science department first, back in the days, and now it houses archaeology and anthropology, and our undergraduates get to do both if they so want, but you will be within our domain, obviously. And this is us. This is our lovely anthropology family here, both our support staff, so our admin team, as much as our academic team. So these would be the people, if you were to become an anthropologist with us or do an anthropology degree, these are the people you will work with and meet on an everyday basis during your time here. And we're all very nice, I have to say. And I say this because there are other departments who might not be all very nice. I'm sure they're very nice, but we are especially nice. And this is stuff we do. We look at, as I said before, different places around the world and talk about different topics in our research. And we do a lot of teaching too, but we, do work in, for instance, Panama, like my colleague Paulo Fort is there. We can work on planning. We can work on dreams, for instance, as much as architecture. My book is down here. I should probably say something about myself. I work on time, as you will later hear about, in post-industrial cities around the world, both with a special focus on Europe and on Africa. So Tanzania, Malawi is my recent field site. Again, other colleagues have worked on recycling, on meetings, on the Jews of Andhra Pradesh. I've put a bit more on energy, obviously, and time development. That's all very important topics that we cover here with our own in-house expertise. The department itself falls into 3 groups. So there are people who are thoroughly grounded like myself in social anthropology. So we do social anthropology. We're part of a social anthropology research group. The people who look at health, and our masters represent that as well, health and well-being. So there's an anthropology of health research group, and then there's an evolutionary anthropology research group. And if you're interested in evolutionary anthropology, which I know hardly anything about, there is a master's by research that could be interesting for you, but I will not kind of go into more detail here. These are my lovely colleagues who are part of the PGT team, so the postgraduate taught team, so we look after the master students. If you were to come here to do our masters in social and cultural anthropology, it would be Tom Yarrow who's looking after you with myself. And then for medical anthropology and global and planetary health, it would be Loretta Lu and Pauline and Simon, who we can see here as well. They're in charge of the SED Masters, so that's the Sustainability, Energy and Development Masters, and they are looking after you. They guide you through this year, and they're always there for you. If you have any questions, they're also there for you right now if you have any questions for a specific course. So if you're interested in anything pertaining to your actual program, here, just check out these emails or check out their profiles online. You'll be sent these slides too. So our programs then very quickly, there are these 2 conversion masters that I talked about. So you can become a social cultural anthropologist with us. And again, this is perfect for people who don't have an anthropology background, but really interested in what we do and want to understand the world in a different way, in a very qualitative and specific way. And so we give you a 1-year introduction to this. You will do, as in all the other courses, a big dissertation, so your own research at the end of it, but you will be taught in the major themes and concepts of our discipline. And we have this MSc in medical anthropology, which also allows you to become a medical anthropologist. There you might have some backgrounds that are better suited for this, but we would give you the anthropological twist to this. And then for both, we have a more specialized master's. So if you want to look into all these very topical issues of sustainability, energy, and development, would be the MSc in SED. And if you're more wanting to link topics of health and well-being with environmental and ecological issues, then it would be the MSc in Global and Planetary Health. We refer to these 2 as our sustainability suite, and they allow you to think about, again, very ongoing big problems in the world in a very anthropological way, but also with a side onto other disciplines and what they're doing at the same time. What people experience here and what students actually reflect back to us, and I'll show you in a moment how they do so, is the list. I think what makes this kind of stand out. You have a very, very intellectually stimulating environment. You become part of these research groups when you join as a master student. There will be other institutions you are also a member of or can be a member of. We'll get to them in a moment. You get a lot of interdisciplinary expertise here from us. We cover the whole range of anthropology, and we cover geographical ground as well, and most topics. And again, we only focus on sustainability, but we could talk about other things as well. You have a lot of face-to-face contact with us, with the academic staff here. You do your own research. We help you with that. You all get a supervisor for your dissertation project with whom you will work very closely. You do this kind of hands-on research, but before you do that, you are taught in usually very small groups of 10 to 20 people in one cohort in your program or in the kind of seminars and lectures you will attend. And it's generally, and people reflect on it a lot, it's a very caring and supportive environment. We want you to be happy here. It's a 1 year 1 year out of your life that you commit to these studies, and we want you to have fun, and we want you to enjoy the lovely environment, college life and everything. But we want you to do well in your studies as well. And yeah, so it's a perfect place to do this kind of endeavor and become part of a vibrant global community, and global that is, as you can see in the interest today. So really from all around the world. I put a few testimonies on here just to kind of mirror, and you can read them later yourself, of the kind of experiences that our students have here. So I invite you to kind of read them, but I would say it's a unique opportunity and to work with us, and we're very friendly. and it's a very enjoyable environment, as Susanna says, for instance. World-class facilities, yes, but we really support your learning, and that really transpires every year. There's a warmth, as I said before, and an openness that Barbara tells us about. And Jeremiah, who's just been voted one of the top 50 leading young people in Africa or something crazy, like he's been on some big list and has won a big grant, leaving us here as well. I mean, he's done excellent work with us last year, and then the year before this year. Yeah, again, you can read these testimonies yourself. When you come here to us and join us and become an anthropologist, you will also have access to these kinds of research groups, and they all fit into the remit of our programs, from the Durham Infancy and Sleep Center to the Center for Social Justice and Community Action. Again, just a small taster here of what is possible when you become a student at Durham University and join our department. And just talking about that, here's graduation day. That's what obviously everything is geared to in our world. Yes, UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of my favorite buildings in the world. So this is the cathedral. If you look at it from the outside, it's not as transparent, but when you go inside, so it's Romanesque or Norman, as they call it here, building. So it has the round arches, but it wants to be Gothic. It already wants to go up, and it's really lovely when you see it. But this is where our graduations happen. It's a very moving ceremony, all the proud parents and students, and we are in full attire too, with all the funny hats and Harry Potter kind of outfits that we have. We were founded in 1832 as the third oldest university in England after Oxford and Cambridge. And we're a collegiate university like these two. We consist of 17 colleges, and we have 22,000 students approximately. And a third of them are international students. You would be sharing a very international crowd. And here just a map of Durham, where you see that these colleges are all located very centrally. So the peninsula, where the river makes this 180-degree turn, that's where the cathedral is, and the castle being one of the colleges. It's called University College, but everybody refers to it as Castle College, my college, that is. But then on the side where our campuses are several colleges, and on the peninsula itself, all very easily reachable from the station. And again, makes studying just all the more easy for everyone. Because you have a family already, you have social life kind of given to you, and you don't even have to cook if you want to. You can just eat college food every day. And we are a very sporty university as well. These are our sports grounds. You see the cathedral in the background and the lovely Durham countryside, the river. We are down here. For whatever reasons, the sports site is called Maiden Castle. Just another castle. I'm the coach of the handball team. Yeah, there's a lot of fun you can have there too. And then Durham is obviously nicely located in the UK, easily reachable from several airports, but along the north-south train connection between London and Edinburgh. London is, I mean, an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes away. Sorry, Edinburgh is an hour and 40 minutes away, and London is under 3 hours. You can reach it from Durham. The nearest airport is Newcastle, also fairly easily reachable. They have a connection with Dubai, for instance. But what you see on the left here is obviously the more touristy pictures, Bamborough Castle, and then the castle on Holy Island, Lindisfarne, the Angel of the North, and Hadrian's Wall on the top left corner, just as a taster of the beautiful countryside and all the touristic sites you can also get access to. Okie dokie. Good. Are there any questions before I start with the little taster session? Just should have an eye on time as well. Are we doing it right? Are there any questions from anyone at this point? No? And then the main part, but again, will only be 10 minutes or so, of today's session was to give you a bit of a taste of, and for me, again, it would be a taste of how anthropologists go about studying something like sustainability, which is, as I said before, a very contested concept, but a very important concept that a lot of people have invested a lot of hope in, and it seems to be the kind of a link to the future with an impending climate crisis, etc. It is crucial that we get this one right. So what I thought I'll do is I'll just tell you a little bit about what's going on in anthropology. Sustainability in our own department is obviously central to at least two of the masters. So you will have a lot of kind of modules seminars and lectures about the topic, and will be exposed to a lot of literature. You also do some kind of hands-on research especially in the SED program here about renewable energy, for instance. So sustainability will be kind of part and parcel of your learning here in many ways, but and I can't cover all of that. Some of it is, technical, some of it is more philosophical, like there's different ways you will be thinking through this concept as well, and other concepts, obviously. But what I thought I would do is to tell you a little bit about generally what's at stake for anthropology here, and then tell you about my own work, which is on sustainability, but again, with regards to very specific, well, in my case, a city, a German city. So I'll get to this later. And then again, I invite you to raise any questions at any point. Good. So let's dive in. Oh, am I doing this right here? Yeah. One of the main publications that has come out recently in 2017, so also 7 years old by now, God, is the Anthropology of Sustainability. If you're interested in the topic, I would highly recommend it. The subtitle already kind of shows you that sustainability in many contexts is thought about as a way of going beyond, well, technically capitalism, but also development and progress as the kind of main guiding ideas that are at the core of capitalism and the way we have organized the world these days. In it, you find contributions by many different and very well-known thinkers in anthropology and beyond, and they all give you a take on sustainability. I've chosen Anat Singh here, who has written a lovely book about matsutake mushrooms, also very well received internationally, about life in the ruins, in capitalist ruins, and the possibility of that kind of life. And she gives us an initial definition of sustainability, which is the dream of passing on a livable earth to future generations, human and non-human. But as she says already, this term is not an easy one. It makes her want to cry and love at the same time, because it's been used in so many different ways. For an anthropologist, the challenge of getting a good grip on this term is that we have to make clear that sustainability kind of makes us think beyond these technical fixes for carbon dioxide production, for instance, or resource limitations. What the authors make very clearly is a point that it requires reimagining and reworking communities, societies, and landscapes, especially those dominated by industrial capitalism. And they continue to say that this will help us build a productive symbiosis with each other. So there's always a social dimension here, and the many non-humans on whom that we depend upon. So there's an ecological dimension to the term itself. What they make very strongly as a point in the introduction is that we have to kind of get rid of resilience thinking. So again, they define sustainability as the process of facilitating conditions of change by building and supporting ontological, biological, economic, and political diversity. That's, again, a common understanding of sustainability. The idea is that if you diversify, then if there's a crisis with regards to any of the different diverse elements, the whole system can come in because it's working well with all the other elements and can lift up whatever element is suffering at any point. So that's a common understanding. But what they do with this kind of understanding of sustainability is contrasted to the idea, very popular idea of resilience, right? And that many think one see as the best way of addressing climate change, for instance, and the harm caused by the excesses of, again, industrial capitalism. And resilience they understand as being based on the belief that there's an ability to bounce back after a shock and to return to whatever was the pre-crisis condition. But they say this is just not enough for the challenges we are facing. So they say this focus on resilience, that's very popular, diverts attention from seeking to address the forces causing the shocks to the ability of the victims to cope with them, continue as they did before. And in contrast, they say, what they say sustainability should be doing is to make us understand the following, namely the focus on building resilience drives efforts into recovery and places blame on the individual for not being able to cope rather than on the structural issues causing the shocks. And these structural issues it is that sustainability has to take on. And what they propose, and this kind of leads nicely into my take on time, which I'll talk about in a moment, is to say that they argue the need to focus their approach on the future in terms of sustainability, on how to ensure a future livable Earth, but not in terms of maintaining what went before, as resilience would allow us to, but as a process that prepares us for an unpredictable future. So a totally different kind of future by supporting and encouraging diversity in all its forms, at the same time as confronting the causes of the situation head on. That, by the way, would mean taking on capitalism as well. And there's a whole debate about whether sustainability can actually be established within a capitalist system or not, when capitalism itself can be seen as a particular economy that always leads to crisis necessarily. Now I'll shift gear a little bit. So does anybody know what this image here, which is from a museum in London, or that's where it's currently held, does anybody know what this picture depicts? And he was known for his voyages around the world, but he had a tragic death on Hawaii. Now you will ask yourself, what on earth does that have to do with sustainability? Well, it has to do something with time, and I'll tell you why. So in the 70s and 80s, the Anthropology of Time was really interested in this historical event, and that's why I'm sharing this depiction of it with you. And the story goes the following way. So Captain Cook, on his whatever ship it was at that point, made his way to Hawaii, and he arrived with his team, I think one would say, but with all his men. And he was greeted as a god, because that was in the ritual cycle of the Hawaiians at this point. It was the time when their god Lono, L-O-N-O, Lono was supposed to appear. And so he was celebrated as this god, and they had a good time, whatever. They left slightly thereafter, but their mast broke. And so he had to return to Hawaii to get the ship fixed. When he returned, unfortunately, it was the time when, in the ritual cycle of the Hawaiians, the god Lono had to be sacrificed, so had to die in order then to reappear in the next cycle, right? And for some anthropologists, this just simply meant, oh, these Hawaiians, they can only think about time in circular ways, right? And there's a cultural determinism here, so that's why who we think they thought of as a god had to be killed, because that's what would happen every year in whatever form. And other anthropologists were saying, no, that's not the point. The actual reason why he was killed was because of what we consider as an expression of linear thinking, so progress and development thinking, as the authors of the previous book have talked about, because he was actually murdered in the context of political factioning conflicts amongst Hawaiians. And, just a kind of, a terrible accident, but not much more than that. And this contradiction, or this contrast between cyclical and linear time, is actually really important, because as you may know, or have seen in the little bits that I've talked about before, sustainability, or a way of thinking about the world in sustainable terms, is also always a contrast to this kind of boom and bust of capitalism, which, again, capitalism being itself driven on a linear, progressive kind of notion of time, where we always have to create more and do more and grow. Otherwise, our societies, for whatever reason, are supposed to stop working. So bringing in a different kind of understanding of time, and that's what interests me in my own work, is actually crucial here in order to overcome what is at the core of capitalism, namely a linear, or modernity for that matter, a linear understanding of time. And I was doing, a few years ago now, but I was doing work in Bremerhaven, which is Germany's poorest city, a proper post-industrial city. And I like to look at these post-industrial cities, because in these cities, the question of, oh God, what is our future, is as a Middlesbrough is highly problematic, right? Because they had one future, an industrial future, which meant everybody goes to a factory and works, and whether it was good or not, that's not the point. But they have lost that kind of future, with the industries going elsewhere or being modernized, and you're just losing these jobs. So the kind of social contract that was in place wasn't working anymore, and that was the same in Bremerhaven for many reasons. I don't want to go too much into detail, but what they've done is they invested a lot of funding that were given by the state, the German state, into two things, and that's very common. You would see the same here in England, but you will see probably very similar things around the world: in renewable energy, here wind energy, and in tourism. Both of these economic sectors are seen by many around the world as being sustainable. I mean, sustainable in the sense of, yeah, we need energy, and if we're not taking energy from coal, gas, or oil, then it will have to be coming from somewhere else. So we do need something like offshore or onshore wind energy, hydropower, you name it, right? So how this materialized in Bremerhaven, which is located next to the German Bight, a very flat bit of the North Sea, where you can actually have all of these wind parks, is in these tripods. They would be the foundations for the wind turbines to then sit and poke out of the water and create energy. A whole factory was built on these post-industrial kind of brownfields that existed before. This is in the southern harbor of Bremerhaven, and you see how busy and bustling it is, and everybody in the city was like, oh, finally, we're back, we have an industry, it works, we're all happy, nothing can go wrong. 3 years later, the whole thing had to close down. It's a volatile market, people would tell me and all that, but the main technical innovation was that somebody didn't want to do tripods anymore, but monopiles that are rammed into the sea ground. They're just cheaper to produce. That's what capitalism does. So all of this hope that what they thought a sustainable economic practice would look like was shattered within no time. And similar, and I'm keeping this short, here this was believed to be sustainable as well. There's investments in tourism. There's a Dubai-esque looking 4-star hotel and convention center. There's a climate museum and if you can see my arrow, this bit here, this roundish thing is the climate museum, and then here's an immigration museum. There's a whole kind of nice area within the old harbor, as it's called, and the new harbor. That was all revamped and was supposed to create a sustainable income of revenue for the city, because tourists would go and want to see all of these museums. And a similar story, they haven't closed down, but a similar story can be told. The idea that tourism in and of itself will be sustainable with regards to the city's future has not really worked out. They all have to invest heavily to keep these museums going. You know, they're usually experience-based museums, as many museums are these days. So people who have gone there once, will they come back? Will they want to invest their money again? So all of these ideas and dreams and futures of citizens like this of a post-industrial city like Bremerhaven, they are kind of trying to navigate whatever a sustainable future actually looks like. And they're really trying to step out of this linear understanding of time that, you know, things will just work fine from now on, and try to create something that really turns out to be sustainable. However, really interestingly, nobody has to find what that really, how it can be measured, for instance, right? Again, if it goes beyond just, you know, a reduction in carbon dioxide. So I'm really interested in my own work and looking at how people define what a sustainable future and, you know, even more so a sustainable present would look like, and how you can define when you've reached a state that can be seen as sustainable, right? And that's not an easy question to answer. So what I'm inspired by when using this term is to kind of look at the temporal repercussions that sustainability has, because it does come from kind of an illogical way of seeing the world, and that's much more circular and less linear than the kind of ways we think about time, for instance, right now. And I say it orients human ideas of and relationships to the future in different provocative and stimulating ways, because it's different to the ways that we've done it before. And it pushes the boundaries of temporal thought by, for instance, it's very crucial to not just thinking about how we can make a difference, right? How we can change the present and create a different future, but also how we can let that future endure in the future. So you're already taking the future of the future into consideration when you think in sustainability terms, right? And in my work, I claim that when the future survival of humanity and the Anthropocene is at stake, then this is exactly how far our own temporal thought has to reach. So it has to go beyond just making a difference, as we say. It actually has to look at how that difference itself can endure in time. Good. With that, I come to the end of our taster sessions. And sorry, it was a bit longer than I thought. If there are any questions, I will just stop sharing, and then we can maybe have a nicer conversation. There was a last slide that just says thank you, and as I'm German, it says auf Wiedersehen. So hope to see you again.